Yo, what's up, everyone? You're listening to the Daily Unfucking Your CX, where I fix what's broken in customer experience in under 15 minutes. I'm Zack Hamilton, your host, and I'm looking forward to unfucking today. Yo, what's up, everyone? I saw a post floating around LinkedIn a few days ago that said, insights don't move organizations. People who feel what customers feel do. And listen, I absolutely get the spirit of that. It's a very common belief in customer experience. If our executives just felt the pain of the customer, they'd finally prioritize fixing it. And so what we do is we bring leaders into customer calls and focus groups and journey observations and store visits. And the whole idea is if they feel what the customer feel, change will happen. And here's just an absolute uncomfortable truth. That's not how organizations actually make decisions. I understand this. I led CX for more than 9 years in an organization. I've helped over 200 brands execute their experience strategies. Emotion resonates in the CX community because it makes it sound like we have a purpose. And quite frankly, I'm going to unfuck that today because here's what I know. Executives do not make decisions based on emotion. Executives make decisions based on economic impact. And quite frankly, that doesn't make them heartless leaders. It makes them responsible because every executive meeting is essentially one big question. Where should we invest our time, our money, and resources as an organization this quarter, this year, the next 18 months? And inside that one conversation, to answer that one question, you have product initiatives, marketing investments, technology projects, operational improvements, and they're all competing for the exact same pool of resources, both financial, employee resources. That's where resource allocation planning comes in. And when CX walks in and says, our customers are really frustrated, well, that's nice. Let's keep tracking that. That's not a decision. It's an observation. And awareness does not create action. This is the mistake that CX has been making for 20 years. We confuse awareness with action. We think if leaders just understand the problem, they'll fix it. And that's not how prioritization works. Executives don't ask, do we feel bad about this? What they ask is, what happens to the business if we fix it? And what happens if we don't? What's the trade-off? That's the real decision. And the missing link is customer behavior. Emotion only matters when it changes behavior. Behavior is what drives the P&L. So let me say that again, because I think this is where CX often gets it wrong. Emotion matters when it drives consumer behavior. And behavior is what drives revenue, cost, and retention. If emotion doesn't change behavior, it doesn't change the business. So let me give you an example. Let's just look at the returns experience for a retail brand. Let's take a really, really super common example. A CX team walks into an executive meeting and says, our customers are frustrated with our returns process. That's great, right? They might show the sentiment analysis behind it. They'll show returns experience has, a 10-point drop in NPS, and all the executives nod. And they agree. Our customers are frustrated with the returns process. And we might even get, we should probably look into that. And then they move on. Why? Why do they move on so quickly? Because nothing in that statement that you just made as a CX leader requires a decision. So let's change that. Let's change the way that we're going to frame the frustration with returns. So instead of saying customers are frustrated with returns, we're going to frame that into a business problem statement. And we're going to say customers who experience a return take 18 days longer to make their next purchase. And because of that delay, our repeat purchase rates drop, our customer lifetime value declines, and our loyalty weakens. When we quantify this, the impact looks like this. Returns friction is reducing customer lifetime value by $42 per customer, and across our customer base, that equals $7.2 million in lost repeat purchase revenue annually. Now, same insight, framed differently, and now the executive conversation changes completely. Now the question becomes, do we want to recover $7.2 million? That's a decision that you're forcing the executive leadership team to make. And this is where CX has been stuck. Most CX teams stop at customer emotion. They show NPS scores, CSAT scores, sentiment trends, verbatim comments, journey pain points, and they hope leaders care enough to act. But executives don't run companies on sentiment. They run companies on behavior and economics. So the real equation that CX really needs to understand is customer emotion changes customer behavior. Customer behavior changes business performance. Business performance drives executive decisions. If you skip the middle, you never get the decision. Never. And unfortunately, the CX industry's favorite shortcut for so many years is trying to really shortcut the decision-making process with a single metric. And you know the one, probably guess it, because the promise was really simple. Improve the metric and revenue will follow. But the problem, the score doesn't tell you what behavior changed. If you can't show behavior change, you can't show business impact, which means executives have no reason to prioritize the work. And so here's the shift that CX needs to make immediately. Not yesterday, not today, really like 10 years ago. Customer experience leaders have to move from being insight reporters to behavior translators. Your job is not to show leaders how customers feel. Your job is to show leaders what customers do differently because of that feeling and how it affects the business. Because once behavior is clear, the economics become obvious. And once the economics are clear, decisions happen much, much faster. And this is decision velocity. It's actually one of the biggest competitive advantages companies can build. Decision velocity tells you how quickly your organization can move from signal to friction to decision to action. Most companies are slow, not because they lack insight. They're slow because the insight isn't framed as a business decision. So it sits and it sits and it sits. Meanwhile, the friction continues to erode revenue. It continues to compound. The most dangerous CX sentence, there's one sentence I hear all the time in CX teams, and it's incredibly dangerous. And that is, we just need to make leadership care. No, you don't. Leadership already cares about the customer. What they don't have is a clear economic reason to prioritize this problem that you're bringing them over the other 50 problems in the business that they're supposed to care about. Your job isn't to make them care. Your job is to make the trade-off obvious. Now let's go back to that initial statement, the real role of emotion. Let's be clear. Emotion does matter. It does. Customer emotion is often the signal that something is broken, but emotion is the starting point. It's not the finish line. Emotion tells us where we should look. Behavior tells us what it costs. And what it costs creates the decision. I get asked a lot about the future of customer experience. And to me, the future of customer experience isn't better dashboards, it's not better insights, it's not more surveys, and it's not trying to make executives feel what customers feel. The future of CX is much simpler. Identify friction, connect that friction to customer behavior, translate that behavior into business impact, and then drive a decision. That's it. It's that simple. That's the system. So the next time someone says insights don't move organizations, people who feel what customers feel do, I'd tweak that slightly if I were you. Because the real truth is this: emotion doesn't move organizations, customer behavior does. And the CX leaders who learn how to connect behavior to P&L are the ones who finally get their work prioritized. Well, that's it for today's Daily Unfucking. If this made you think, follow the show, share it with someone that's still stuck in 2019 CX. I'll see you tomorrow.